Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Warm welcome to another evening edition of our talk. I think we are also victim of CAA. I believe a lot of people got stuck in the traffic. But anyway, our people are very smart. They miss the route. They watch live wherever you are there. You are watching, I hope, watching live, YouTube and Facebook and also live on webcast. But I know most of them will join us. Our members, even we had a tsunami, they came actually. So not to worry, somehow they'll come and manage to come here on time. They come, but today, okay, little later, but they won't miss your talk, madam. So for the benefit of the little bit of people who got stuck on the traffic, let me again brief you what's happening in MMA next 2 months, a couple of events, if you missed them in your inbox, so that you don't miss them, the actual event when it's happening. On 31st of January, that is day after tomorrow, we will have a talk on reducing the deduction of tax under Section 192 of the Income Tax Act 61, because we do a lot of these tax-related programs before the budget, because we don't know what is going to happen in budget, because some of the provision, especially TDS, one has to be careful, because it's become very serious offense in case you violate some of the rules of TDS. Then February, on Monday, the 3rd of Feb, we have again interesting event, the art of making better defensible decision. Professor Errol is coming from USA. He's going to be talking to you on this. To chair this session, we have Srikanth, who is the president of MMA and also joint managing director of Breaks India. You must listen to this gentleman, Professor Errol from USA, because the subject what he spoke is, I found it very, very interesting, because the art of defensible decision, how the decision making and how he also I met him, he's already in Chennai doing a workshop, a couple of places. He told me by looking at the eyes itself, you can really negotiate so well, it will make or break decisions. I mean, at the end of the day, understanding eye contact, but you keep looking at things, sometimes you may go to sleep, because other may put you to sleep, you lose out also. But this is, I urge upon you, please be there for this event. This is happening on 3rd of Feb. Then on the 8th of February, we have our national convention, MMA Annual Convention 2020 on the theme, Adapt to Win, Leading Disruptive Changes in a Changing Economic Order. This is happening at Torch Coromandel, Chennai. And, we have got some outstanding speakers again. We got Sunilkant Munjal, Hero Honda Chairman. I also told my people to get registered because only few vacancies we have. Nalin Singhal, Chairman, MD of Bharat Heavy Electricals. Mohandas Pai, you all know him, great speaker. Anil Rai Gupta is the Chairman of Havels. Swami Muktananda, he is from Dallas, USA. He is going to be talking on how to live happiness. Suresh Narayanan is MD and Chairman of Nestle. Ankur Puri, McKinsey Senior Partner. Nagesh, Chairman of Shoppers Stop. Ajit Ranade, Chief Economic Advisor of Aditya Birla Group. Ritu Gupta, Director of Marketing of Dell India. Ambi Parmeshwaran is one of the management guru, branding guru from Mumbai. Ramesh Jude is one of the brand valuation guru from Bangalore. Arun Kumar is authority on black money. He is coming from Delhi. He's written a number of books on black money and demonetization. One of the guys who are critical about some of the economic policies. We got Srinivasan K. Swami, R.K. Swami BBDO, and he's also the chairman of the World Advertising Council. Is going to be there. Mohandas Shivaprakasham is IT professor who had done some innovation par excellence in IT Research Park. He's going to talk disruptive innovation in the field of medicine. Then we got Arun Jain, Intellect Design Arena. You know all Arun Jain, founder of Polaris. Venki is a managing director of Indian Terrain. And we got some outstanding speakers lined up. Please don't miss it and come is what. You are not coming, not to worry. It's again webcast live. So we are not bothered. You come and see. But if you come, you will have a real opportunity network. We already have 600 registrations for this event and we close it at 700. So do come on the 8th of February. It's happening at Hotel Taj Coromandel, Chennai. And our membership fee is highly subsidized. We charge only 2,200 rupees, including GST of 18%. That means you pay below par of what we pay for hotel in terms of lunch itself. Then on 10th of February, again, we have an interesting event, corporate strategies in response to the climate change, because we firmly believe in UN GDP's with the resolution part by the all nations. So under this, we are doing that. We got again international speaker, Sheila Srikumar from Western Sydney University, Australia. To chair the session, we have Sheila Sriprakash, one of the leading architects from Chennai. Then on 11th February, again, we have an interesting event. We have a Memory King. Krishan Chahal is a Guinness Book of World Record holder. He is going to be talking to us on the art of memorizing. It is good to know that, because I want my members to memorize this, attend this event more, as I mentioned to you earlier. Once you have this heart of memorizing, I'm quite sure you won't miss any MMA program. So you'll remember them actually. I have to remind you every time. On 14th of Feb, again, we have an outstanding event, a presentation on the budget 2020, where from here the Indian economy. Because we do it at 2 weeks hence the budget, because we want to know, understand the finer prints. Also understand what exactly is the impact on the economy. We'll know to some extent. We got Dr. Narayanan, former Finance Secretary, Economic Advisor to the Prime Minister, is going to be there. Ravi Hindu, Director of Hindu, Ravichandran Purushothaman, Nagappan, and Sheshai, who is Executive Vice Chairman of Hinduja Group. And on 21st of Feb, again, we have a great event with the Indian Institute of Material Management, the influence of e-commerce trends in logistics. This is what is happening on 21st. I think people, I've given enough time for the latecomers. Now we'll move on to today's event, and we are all eagerly looking forward to this event. Since the time Rekha Shetty, when she met me, she mentioned about this. Straight away we said we must go ahead for this, because very rarely you get an outstanding speaker, the person who is passionate, who written a book, who practiced actually and written the book, and she's going to be talking to us all about PR. And PR today, without that, you don't exist in any even. You could be in business, you could be in NGO, even at home, you have to do a lot of PR to be very successful with your wife actually, or husband, whatever it is. Okay, so PR 2020 is management of reputation. Because this is very dear to us in armed forces. We always say your reputation travels faster than you. When a guy gets posting from one place A to place B, so we'll know the guy before coming what he's about. So we have to guard our reputation like anything, because armed forces, the success of our success in any unit, any operations is the reputation what we carry. Even in corporate world, your reputation, 50% of your job is done if you have a good reputation. Even if you're not doing that well, your reputation is very good, you are very successful. But more to talk, we have one of the outstanding speakers for this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hand together to Ms. Rita Bhimani, founder and CEO of Rhythm Communication, to share this session, none other than our own part of MMA team, mentor, done a lot of activities to MMA. Dr. Rekha Shetty, Managing Director of Passenger Distribution. May I request Rita and Rekha to please take your place on the dais. Please. Come on the top, we'll do it there. Come, please come. Thank you so much, because since you're going to be talking on the book, we thought it'll be nice if we can launch this book on MMA platform, because anything launched on MMA, people are lucky. I think you will be running short. Your Amazon rating will go much higher. And I request you to please launch the book officially, give a copy to her, and I'll also have the privilege of receiving one copy of it. Can you come, please? Before I call upon Rekha Shetty to take on the scene, let me briefly introduce her. I think our introduction, it will take almost half an hour. I'll finish the program, but let me introduce her briefly, because she got so many accolades and achievement. She's the Managing Director of Fast-Star Distribution Network, and she's an author and entrepreneur, original thinker. She has written 11 books, including books on poetry, mostly published by Penguin. It's all available outside. If you would like to buy them, please do buy them, and she'll be more than happy to autograph. It'll be a prize portion for you one day. Popularly known as a corporate doctor, Rekha Shetty has also created a new tool for managers, entrepreneurs, develop competitive edge, and much more. She has also a lifelong commitment to the innovation and creativity in management. You all know, in MMA itself, we had a number of events on innovation jointly with her, and she also done a number of workshops on innovation. She is consulted in successful turnarounds, new product development, and increasing the profitability. Our long-term innovation initiative is using 47 thinking tools, helps us to increase the profits, reduction in cost, while improving the customer satisfaction and employee participation level. She is an innovation consultant, blue chip companies, and in her very first assignment in United India Insurance, she developed a nationally acclaimed advertising campaign. As a group vice president of the Apollo Hospitals, she pioneered a concept of hospital marketing and and health insurance. You know where Apollo has gone from there to now. And during the last 20 years, she has been appreciated in the field of creativity, management, and developed her own management brand, Mindpower. Thank you, Dr. Shetty, for not only chairing the session, also bringing in Rita Bhimani to come and speak at MMA. May I request you to introduce the subject and also introduce the speaker. You want to proceed? Yes. It's always, I can say, icing on the cake. I've been told to introduce Rita Bhimani also. It's a pleasure. Let me, with pleasure, introduce Rita Bhimani. She's the founder of Rhythm Communications, a niche corporate public relations started in 1991 for corporate PR strategy. We have specialized in activities and they have specialized activities in projects which require writing and production skills like corporate brochure, house journals, corporate films, anchoring of industry and books launch meets, voicing for film and live shows, media relations strategy, corporate soft skill training for industry groups with emphasis on presentation techniques, stress, time, anger management, and full day PR and training. I don't think it could be anybody better than qualified to speak on the subject. And something which is not written in the thing I want to share with you. She's a proud mother of Gautam Bhimani. You all know Gautam Bhimani is one of the finest anchor, finest commentator of Indian cricket, and who is there. And her husband is one of the first, Bhimani is one of the first commentators in Indian cricket. I think it runs in the family, all this PR networking and commentary. It's a really pleasure to have you with us in MMA, madam. Now I'll hand it over to Dr. Rekha Shetty to take it forward. Over to you. You want a hand mic here? You want to You want to call a mic? Gentlemen, now you can give a big round of applause to our distinguished speaker and the chairperson. And you keep your questions, they'll be discussing. They also agree to take on questions. Keep your questions ready so that we make the best use of all the doubts we have in the PR network. Actually, over to you, Dr. Rekha Shetty.
Hello. Hello. Good evening, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here at the Madras Management Association. I can't believe that it has its own building, and all credit to Group Captain Vijay Kumar and everyone else, the whole team. It's wonderful that you could invite me to come all the way from Calcutta here to do this. And today we're going to talk about the management of reputation. Group Captain just said that your reputation precedes you in the army. People get to know exactly who you are and what you do. So what happens? I should start by asking you this question, that, you hear that there's this useless fellow coming. So, it's a bad precedent for someone who's joining the army. And how has that fellow tackled it, or how have you tackled it? Maybe we'll come to that later. But this is these are serious problems. In fact, when I was talking to Rekha Shetty, and we've had lots of conversations, one of the things she asked me is, she said, "How do you tackle gossip?" I said, "Hello? Now, what kind of question is that?" And then it struck me that yes, the corporate grapevine is possibly the fastest way that any kind of bad news can spread. And bad news, of course, as you know, spreads much faster than good news. So this is how, if any company is in trouble, and there are lots and lots of companies in India who have gone under, there have been scams, and there have been many other problems that corporates have faced. I think it's the employees, word of mouth, gossip, the corporate grapevine that really fans the fires of some of these rumors. Some of it could be true, but some of it gets inflated beyond measure. So this is where this whole management of reputation, I think, comes in. When you try to contain it, or when you try to right the wrongs that have happened, And when we started out in PR, both of us, both Rekha and I, have been in our respective fields now for 50 years each. How many years? More?
No.
45.
Yeah.
45 plus 50, 95. Now don't start counting, please. We are not exactly 100 years old, but just to tell you that we have been in this field for a very, very long time. I myself come from a family where my father was the first public relations officer of Tata Steel. Tata Steel was one of the most amazing companies that was showcased to the rest of the world when it started, because it started not just as a steel company, but as something that also did a lot of CSR along with it, and had for its employees got everything from parks and beautiful schools and community centers and everything else. So that's how we started looking at the positives of PR. So when we first started in PR, to me it was all about P plus R. That's performance of a company plus the recognition that PR people would gain out of it. So P plus R. Today's P plus R, I would say, is much more about perception management, and the re-engineering of this perception, because perceptions have changed drastically. The way people look at companies, the way people analyze you under a microscope, that is where companies have to be much more transparent, much more honest, much more seen to be honest, let us say. So what I wanted to do was, when we're talking about reputation management, is to break it all down very easily so that after a whole day's work, you can come to simple terms of an A, B, C, D. So my A for this reputation management is averting the apocalypse. The B is for bespoke branding. We'll come to that. We'll actually explain some of these as we go along. The C is for crisis control, and the D is for diverting disasters. I shared this ABCD with Rekha, and she said, look here, most of it sounds like it's all crisis-oriented. And crisis is what we're all in the middle of, whether it's in our country, whether it is because of the CAA that 50% of the people here have not managed to turn up, and it's happening all over the country, but they have no clue. They're just going out and protest in the streets, but they are not sure what they are protesting about. And this is something that has to be explained from the top. The government has to do a lot of explaining to them. So this is where the crisis comes in. The other big crisis that we are facing, I think all of you are aware of it, are a little bothered by it, the coronavirus. It is scaring the hell out of everybody. I'm staying at the Hyatt, and I was talking to all the top management yesterday, and they said every Hyatt in the country is now fully aware that there are a lot of people who are trying to come from China, but they're not going to be allowed to come. And they have done a full preparedness. So when I talk about reputation management, you've also got to be prepared for what can go wrong, because this is extremely serious business. Rekha, I'd like you to come in on this because I've started it off, but what do you think could be the effect of something that is like this virus? Because it is affecting the Sensex index, that has gone down. It's affecting the Hang Seng. It's affecting financial markets. It's not just something that we are bothered about medically, because medical is something that you know about, the medical queen. So please, come in on this.
I would like to move out of the apocalypse and the disaster mode into the development of reputations, which is bespoke branding. And my experience has been very much in that area. So I'd like to share some experiences in this conversation about building a reputation. See, the thing about reputation is you can't build it whenever you're in a good mood. Reputation is something that is built by all the things you say, all the things you don't say. Even if you keep quiet, you start building a reputation. I had a very interesting experience at Apollo Hospitals, where I was Vice President Marketing for the group for many years. When we started, they said, we'd like to, make Apollo a brand where people will go whenever they're not feeling too good. What I found is you cannot market illness. You cannot, nobody believes they'll fall ill, first of all. Everybody believes the neighbor's wife, neighbor's son will break his leg, fall ill, this, that. But me, myself, my wife, nothing is going to happen to me. And so for years, people were wondering how to attract people to hospitals, which you could not do. But when we started talking about the 24 different types of checkups, wellness, about the well woman checkup, the child health checkup, various kinds of checkups, people started getting attracted to the idea of maintaining their bodies as though it were a machine. Like a machine, you don't wait till it breaks down to take care of it. See, what I want to say here about reputation is almost like a perfume. It's so subtle, it's in the air, can be affected by something like gossip, which you have no control over at all. How do you control gossip? You can't control gossip. You can't control the grapevine. So, in my experience with Apollo, what I found is, it's very difficult to even fight gossip. The best thing to do is to go on doing lots of positive things so that this negative gets buried. I'll tell you a little later about how we handled one of the negatives that happened in the building of this. And building reputation is a lifelong job. Then you might have a wonderful reputation. One small, unexplained misstep, and that reputation is destroyed. I'd like you, Rita, to comment on an incident like that in your consulting experience, where somebody had a great reputation and then that single misstep, corporate misstep, destroyed that reputation.
I'll just stick to your area, which you're talking about, Apollo. And there was a very, very well-respected hospital in Calcutta. And what happened was one day, this whole fire took place because they had not taken care of the fact that they had kept a lot of stuff in the basement which could catch fire, and it did. And lots of lives were lost, people leapt out of windows, and its reputation was marred overnight. Their people, their directors went to jail for it. It was a very, very bad scenario. What happened as a fallout of that was that many other hospitals then had to fall in line and had to make sure that they didn't do what this hospital did. So some good came out of it, and they've all now fallen in line, and there's nothing in their basements which can possibly cause this kind of thing.
Rita, I'd like to ask you to comment on what happened to the king of good times. You remember when we first started flying, Malia's airline?
Yes.
They said yes, and they had all those celebrity, do's, and they had so many, the air hostesses were, the prettiest and all of that. Now, all that could not hold up against financial impropriety.
Exactly.
So I want you to comment on that.
Vijay Mallya was a very flamboyant person. He still continues to be that. And what is interesting about him is, I'll come back to the airline in a minute. He has, of course, run away to England, and he lives in a small town outside of London. And he has become extremely popular over there. You have money, you can do anything, folks. So over there, he's a lord, and he throws parties. And whenever he goes out in that small little town, people come up and talk to him. So it's another kind of reputation that he's building for himself. But then, every now and then, the TV cameras get to him, and they said, you know, they want to bring him back to India, they want to put him in jail. And then there's all this talk about how good are Indian jails. That's another thing that we've got to talk about, because there are jails and jails, and there are prisons and prisons, and some of our best freedom fighters have been to prison. But this guy is not exactly a freedom fighter, and he's waiting in the wings to see what happens to him. So that is one part of it. One side, an individual reputation being built, but on the other hand, this huge, big reputation of a big airline, a huge brewery, all this going down the drain because of his financial mismanagement. What we are facing is that there are a lot of irate employees who are constantly getting onto TV shows and saying, look, we haven't been paid for a year, haven't been paid for 2 years. And I feel the one way that they could retrieve something out of it is that start at least with the employees. This is what we always feel, that any company, in order to gain some amount of confidence from people, is they have to start with people who are part of their own setup, their own employees, internally. If he could do that, then he could go by the next step and the next step. He's constantly talking about giving back all that money, but start somewhere. So this is what I feel.
You know, we have a very popular vegetable and fruit outlet here called Paramudir Chole. And you know, the theme there is, he used to actually push a cart, from push cart to posh mart. You know, like he would actually choose the vegetables. You know, that same reputation they've maintained over so many years, at least 3 decades, where the fruits and vegetables in Paramudir Chole are absolutely fresh and, you know, straight from the garden kind of thing. And this gentleman has led a life of you know, simplicity and, you know, very, very honest sort of reputation over the years. And that has not been marred, you know. So I think sometimes trying to grab too much, you know, build a reputation larger than life, sometimes, you know, ends in tears. Because if you, for instance, you know, there's this beautiful advertisement in Times of India some years ago, and it was about a man holding something in his hand, and it's the ad said, so you think advertising and PR can sell anything, try selling this, and it's a broken egg. So what that ad was saying is, you know, you can't sell a broken egg, whatever it is. So first, there has to be truth as far as a reputation is concerned. Then you can build on it. And so I want to know your experience in building something larger than life, which doesn't live up to that promise. You know, it's a sort of lack of judgment on your part. And then the smallest thing makes the reputation crash. Have you had
Yes, we have faced it, not with my very own clients, but since you talk about this vegetable seller who's made it big, but yet not too big. His reputation is still intact. But there are other people, particularly in the stock market scene, and this is something that's public knowledge, so I'm not gossiping, by the way. And just happened a couple of days ago with Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. And everyone would consult with him. He is big time. He really is amazing. But they have just accused him of insider trading. Now what do? Does greed take over at some stage? There are many movies that many of you may have seen where they talk about greed being good, but actually it doesn't really pay. So this is one example when somebody who is so big, and he's literally larger than life if you look at him, why he has to be accused of this? Why should he even do it? This is his bread and butter and jam and everything, his Porsche. But why does this happen? The same thing, I'm reading a book now, which is called Head Held High. It is from Tagore's, Tagore had this thing that everyone now quotes, his wonderful 14 lines, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. So this book is called Head Held High, and it is by a man called Rajat Gupta. Does anybody know about Rajat Gupta?
Yeah.
Yes, I think everybody knows about Rajat Gupta. What a fine individual. McKinsey, how he built up the company. He was so well respected. But there's one little thing that he's said to have whispered to one Mr. Rajaratnam, and that was his downfall, that he actually shared. Again, it was to do with insider trading. So, and again, this is all public knowledge. But what he has done, Rekha, and that is interesting, is this book has just come out, and he says, I don't know why all these years I didn't do it, why this American legal system was so much against me. They really got to me in a very big way. He had to be in prison. A man otherwise of such fine qualities, 4 beautiful daughters, a lovely wife, amazing. He set up the Indian School of Business in Hyderabad. He's really a man who is larger than life. For him to be in prison and in solitary confinement, it was no joke.
Oh, I must share a joke with you.
Yes, but I'll just come back, I'll just come to you. Well, what he has done now in this book, he has tried to repair his reputation. It's a fantastic book. He says, this is what really happened. And then you get to know that actually these people overdid it. The prison authorities overdid it. The legal system overdid it. And he really shouldn't have been punished the way he was. So that's what it's about.
So that's, it's lovely to hear that one of the, one of the Indians with such a great reputation, one always felt so sad, when you heard of. I'd like to bring the focus to the father of the nation, Gandhiji. Gandhiji, of course, turned the whole fight against the British on its head when he had those, magic mantras which said, do or die, quit India, everything like it would be on WhatsApp, quit India. Then he said, Vande Mataram, be Indian, buy Indian. He has such a larger than life reputation. And, so many books have been written recently, criticizing him. Not even criticizing him, but exposing so-called truths. For instance, the latest book is a book where someone has imagined what Kasturba Gandhi would have felt. And it spoke about how his eldest son, Harilal, was lying in a gutter drunk the day Gandhiji was shot and things like that. But I want to tell you, in spite of all this, his reputation remains untarnished. All the experiments he carried out on sexuality, yes. They're not affected his reputation at all. Everybody looks at Gandhiji as one of the humans you cannot imagine he walked on the face of this earth. I think it was a reputation of such, brilliance and such size. And what he did was so innovative. If someone hits you, naturally you'll hit them back. He created a career about not hitting back, not hurting. Career out of ahimsa, totally different from what anyone would try to do. So I'm saying sometimes the reputation of the person, because he sticks to 1 or 2 principles, like ahimsa was one, the other is truth.
everything he did, he spoke about it. So I remember we were talking recently, upstairs, and you said, whatever you do, if you're transparent, you have a chance to keep that reputation intact. You can make a mistake if you're transparent about it and you explain what you're trying to do. Your reputation can still remain even if you make some mistakes. I think you have some fine examples of that.
Yes, definitely. Because if you look at all the airline crashes that have taken place, and most airlines have had this problem, whether it's been an Air India, whether it's been so many other airlines. Recently, this time I've come in by Indigo, and there were a lot of friends who warned me, how can you go by Indigo? Please cancel it right now, take Vistara. I said, why, what happened? They said, oh, but haven't you read the papers? And they sent me a clipping of what's been in the papers about the engines, how they are failing, how the pilots are running full throttle, and that's why it's happening. So they said, and I got so scared that I'm in the middle of writing a book for someone. I put everything on a pen drive. I said, suppose I perish in this Indigo, please make sure that this book comes out. I really did that. I've kept it all in one particular drawer in that pen drive, just for that. But just look at the scare and look at what's happening. Whereas Indigo was one airline which would always pride themselves on-time airline. And their air hostesses beautifully turned out. Everything right. But now they've got to do something about retrieving their reputation, definitely. And look what's happening to Air India. It's just not being sold. Nobody wants to buy debt worth 30 to 40,000 crore rupees. They don't. And yet Air India used to be our national carrier, our pride and joy. Where it's gone. The other thing about this transparency, a little different, is the fact that most airlines, I don't know if you know, they know that something can happen, an airline can crash. So they all have a crisis management manual in place. Every airline has it. And I have gone through some of them. Jet Air, sadly Jet Air is not around anymore, but I went through their crisis management manual. It was a huge fat thing. And in that, I went looking at it because of what the public relations people are expected to do. And what they are expected to do is to come clean with the media. Because the media know that, say, 341 people have perished, so you can't hide that fact. But why did it happen? That's what you have to explain to them. Then you have to explain, in this manual it says, how did you look after the next of kin? It says NOK. Then what steps are they taking to make sure that it never happens again? So every airline has its crisis management manual in place because they have to tackle what happens once it's happened. And they have to get back that reputation ultimately, which all of them are trying to do. And it happened, I'm sure, many of you might have watched this movie called Sully. Did anybody watch Sully? Anyone? Anyway, this was, you did. You know about it. Now, Sully was something interesting where this aircraft suddenly lost one of its engines. It was bird hit. The engines were hit by birds. And they were told to return to Newark Airport and all that. They were told many things, but they could not do it. Try as they might, the captain, Sullenberger, could not do it. Ultimately, he took the decision himself and he landed that plane in that chilled Hudson River. He saved all 300 lives. It was something incredible. But what happened after that is the Inquisition. The fact that, could he have landed somewhere else? Now here's a guy who's been brave, he's taken this decision. He's saved all the lives. Now why have this post-mortem? So, life is not always a bed of roses. You do something wonderful, but then a further inquisition takes place.
I want to share an experience which I had with United India. It was my first job. You know, when there were 23 companies which merged and became United India. You know, advertising has a huge impact on reputation. You know, right in the beginning, that is 1974, 75, you know, we came up, Hindustan Thompson came up with a campaign and we had a competition. And the theme was you know, we came up with a baseline so many years ago which says, at UI, it is always you before I. Huh? And it's still there after 30 years, 35 years, that line is still there. At UI, it's always you before I. And I think advertising has huge impact on reputation. But, you know, it's a mixture of so many things. Like, usually you think of, if you look at the 4 Ps of marketing, you think of public relations as being only in promotion. But I don't think so. I think right from creating a product which is respected to improving price, making sure the price is reasonable, and of course, ensuring access to a product so that you can buy it easily. I think the Reliance Jio has created a huge impact in being available so easily. So I want you to look at how advertising and you know, everything that happens around a product or a company is critical. And even a mistake in any one of these areas, like a product which has a flaw, best advertising is not going to, you know, gloss over that flaw. Or a product which is too highly priced, or price too low. Sometimes a good product price too low can crash because they say it's so cheap it cannot be a good product. So I'd like you to comment on some.
This kind of thing started when my brother was with ITC, and they launched this product called the sunflower oil. That was an ITC product. So I said, oh, wow, this is terrific. My brother's launching it, so how many free cans or bottles can I get from you, I asked him. Or what kind of discount can I get from you? He said, you know, we're not discounting at all. This is our policy, that the moment you're launching a new product and then you're discounting it, to take your logic further, it'll look like it's a product that we are on the back foot for. And, you know, we're trying to push it. So no, this is a new product, like it or leave it. And it sold and sold and sold. So it was never discounted. Same thing has happened now with Baba Ramdev's products. Huge advertising, very interesting because everybody wants herbal products. They want environment-friendly products. And they have kept up their standards. Their competition naturally is out to get them, and they're trying to find flaws in various things. But what has happened as a result of this, of their aggressive marketing, is that the multinationals have now sat up and said, look, we've also got to make things like that. We've also got to make a herbal toothpaste. We've also got to make herbal creams. They said, you know, who is this outsider trying to creep up on us? So I think that domino effect is also something that has become a positive in terms of, you know, product and placement and price and promotion.
A kind of, you know, reaction rather
Yes.
than, you know, ignoring.
Yeah, you're
Baba
not ignoring. It is what happened with Surf and, you know, the other smaller. Nirma became a household word. Nobody questioned the fact that, you know, would Nirma be bad for our clothes? Nirma was just such a runaway success, and the president of the ad club who's sitting here, I hope you're still here, he will also say that that Nirma jingle, it still resonates with everybody. The little girl in that dress, the same way as the Amul girl, they've all become brands. They've branded the product as well. You don't need an external brand ambassador to try and prove a product, because all our famous actors, they are all now in search of big money, big bucks. So they're advertising everything. Amitabh Bachchan, I think I adore the way he has progressed in life, and he's getting better and better. But I don't think I like the fact that he is endorsing just about everything that he can. So there is no credibility to that product. We know that he's never going to use that product, just as a lot of women, famous women and women actresses, are never going to use a hair oil that they're trying to advertise and so on. So that credibility gap is something we've got to watch out for when we're talking about reputation.
Since you love silks, Nalli, which is, the premier silk outlet here, never gives any discounts. They never give discounts. All the others will have a year-end sale. Nalli will never have. Like this book, you never give a discount.
No.
I'll tell you, this book, anything you want to know about PR, it's beautifully written. She's got a wonderful turn of phrase. I really enjoyed reading this book. You would never give a discount on this book.
No.
In fact, a famous author told me, don't give away your books free. I used to happily give away a lot of free. Don't give away your books free. Nobody reads a book which they have not paid for. So there is such a thing as the snob value of high price. A Mercedes-Benz, if it was sold at a much lower price, would not command the kind of excitement that a Mercedes-Benz now, attracts. That's because there is also a certain value to maintaining exclusivity. Like you remember the Shah Mahuja Daris. It takes courage to go pale. All very pale colored daris for the flow. Very, but costing half the earth. They'd built
muted colors, which were not very Indian at all. The Indians love bright stuff.
Yeah.
So you're quite right. That's a very good example, Shah Mahuja. And yet people went berserk about that. But by the way, Nalli, I know it gives no discounts, but in Calcutta, the one thing I do get when I go to a Nalli is a good filter coffee.
See, India, Chennai has managed to maintain that reputation for filter coffee. Just like the Bengali Rasagulla.
Yes.
Even that people are fighting over now. Bhubaneswar says they have a Rasagulla. Yes. So, but I think the Bengalis have held their own.
Yes, we have the proper geographical indication for it. Absolutely.
Coming back to, a tough situation, I want you to remember the Tylenol case. Medicines, pharmaceuticals, very, very sensitive. If the reputation of a medical, a pharmaceutical product is not good, you really have a problem. So Tylenol, used to be such a part of every household's first aid kit. My father-in-law used to say it even treats depression. He just down a couple of Tylenols. And then somebody put poison into a couple of capsules of Tylenol, and people actually died. And the way they reacted to it was fantastic. They withdrew millions of capsules from around the world. And they kept it out of the market for almost 6 to 8 months. And then they said, yes, this happened and this is what we're doing. They showed the capsules being destroyed. And they were very upfront and transparent about it. And now Tylenol is back in the market.
It's become a very, very important case study for most people who want to know how exactly they did it and how they got their reputation back.
When something bad happens, I think you should be transparent. I remember Apollo Hospital had the case of the table tennis player who had, had a problem with movement itself after he had a knee surgery, meniscus for his. And then, you know, what Apollo did at that time was they were you know, they faltered a bit. This was, you know, before 73. You know, they tried to say nothing much has happened till he appeared everywhere. And, you know, you saw this fine sportsman being almost disabled. And then, you know, they decided to come out with it. And they spoke about it. And they accepted what he said. And, you know, everything, once they became transparent, it really helped. And they pointed out that in a million cases, one can go wrong. You can't help it. Mm-hmm. It happens. Whatever, in spite of your best efforts, it can happen. So I think when you do something wrong, it's better to accept it, better to discuss it, try to make amends if possible, and then you may live to tell the tale with an intact reputation.
The same thing happened, like Tylenol, with Maggie. Again, something
Cadbury.
went wrong, and Cadbury with a worm in it, and Coca-Cola, all these things. But they had to put a lot of money into it, into advertising, into good PR, to get back their reputation. But everybody's now eating Maggie, they're drinking Coca-Cola, so it has all come back. Even with things like the Japanese cars, many of them were found to be defective for various reasons. They had to recall so many cars, hundreds of cars. Now it's such a big exercise, but they've done it. If you can prove that, yes, we're not going to let a bad product continue in the market, but we are doing something about it, tell people about it, talk to the press, talk through the press to the people. That's how I think you can regain.
I think our whole, very often our attitude to the press is very wrong. Like whenever we want coverage, we go and overwhelm them with gifts and this and that. See, that doesn't work.
No.
You have to build a lifetime relationship
Exactly.
with the person, whether he writes or not, whether he wants to talk about it or not. Just keep the flow of information, the relationship going. That's why I like WhatsApp, you know. I like email because you can keep people informed. Every time you write, they don't have to, you know, publish an article about you.
Yes.
But over the years, they should keep getting information, you know, and Rita, I'd like you to now, you know, talk to us about the 10 deadly sins. The 10 deadly sins, 7 deadly sins.
7.
Of PR, right?
Yes.
You know, how you can, what you should not do if you're trying to build a reputation.
Yes, I had noted it down, but I think we talked a lot about that.
Okay.
It's just that one had put it into, you know, some kind of notes so that we wouldn't lose the thread of what we wanted to say. So the first deadly sin, image does matter, but it's reputation that makes or mars the process. Because here's an example I was wanting to talk about, WorldCom and Enron. There were massive accounting frauds. And in fact, when Enron came in, and this teams in with other parts of the 7 deadly sins, is that a lot of companies that come into India, they don't do their homework. They don't try to find out what are the sensitive areas, how they should be dealing with the locals, what they should be doing. In fact, a lot of companies are told to try and do CSR even before they set up plants. This has happened in various places, Norissa and others. Enron definitely did not. They had this very flashy CEO called Rebecca Mark, and Rebecca wore these beautiful short dresses, and she looked so fantastic, and she could get all doors open to her in government. Naturally, they see an attractive woman representing something like Enron, a big energy company, and let her go ahead and do business. But they didn't do it in the right kind of way, and it failed, and she had to go back.
Satyam.
Satyam, my God, that is a classic case. First of all, Satyam spelt backwards, Metas. I mean, can you imagine the gall of these people to actually reverse this whole word, Satyam Metas, and then go round and round on it. It was a massive scam, and when it was on, I think all of us were very, very uncomfortable in the corporate world, that if this can happen, it's going to happen with other people also.
So perhaps you would like to summarize, your take on reputation, the building
Yes.
of it,
Yes.
the rescuing of reputation when there's a bad, fallout, and finally maintaining that reputation over the years. Perhaps you'd like.
It happened, if we go back, say, to the Bhopal disaster, everybody has talked about it, just like you brought in Tylenol. Bhopal is also a case in point. It happened a very, very long time ago. But I was around, I was working for our office was just one floor below the Union Carbide office. So we were very close to the people who ran the company. And when that disaster happened, I was so surprised because their PR people just did not react. Their managing director did not. They just let the thing go on, and finally Warren Anderson, they're out of the country, and he went back to his own country. So it was all done in very bad grace, and a lot of lives were affected. It was horrific. There's one person who wrote about this, and that author is Dominique Lapierre. Have any of you read Lapierre? Dominique Lapierre wrote City of Joy. He also wrote this book, which very few people have read, but I helped him launch it. It was called, the title is called, It Was 5 Past Midnight in Bhopal. And he made a whole storyline of it, about these migrant laborers and how they came. And it was such a runaway bestseller that the royalties from it that he got, he put into a hospital for all the women who had been affected by this poison gas. Now that is a positive. So a negative turned into a positive by a writer who didn't expect to get anything out of it, but he did. And that's how it moved forward. But the authorities did not really endorse it. He himself went and did it. So sometimes
I think it's a
individual.
wonderful gesture, and from the heart, and these things really matter. So I'd like to wind up by what happened, how the Rotary reputation has been built. We are both Rotarians. Our fathers were Rotarians, and the Rotary story, which runs over 114 years, started in Chicago, started in India 100 years ago. They have built that story with little acts of compassion and the big story of kicking polio out of this globe. So there is no polio in India. Only 2 countries have polio today, Pakistan and Afghanistan. See, even here there have been challenges. I don't know if you remember, they gave a polio dose to a child in South India, in one of the villages, and the child died. Child died due to other reasons, but the polio campaign was stopped for a few days because of this.
Yes, I know.
Even though, dreaded, because of our reputation, a person like Prabhakaran, the Sri Lankan terrorist, Prabhakaran stopped the war for 3 days so that all the children in the north of Sri Lanka could get their vaccine. That's because of reputation. Yes. Revolutions have been stopped in their tracks because of the reputation of Rotary, that they are not going to do anything bad, they're just going to save the children of that country. So I think doing good definitely helps you build a great reputation.
But in addition, I would like to say, doing good does help but doing good and talking a lot about it also helps. Because this is something, when I have also addressed various Rotary clubs, and often I find they're doing fabulous work, but it gets only a 3-line mention in the papers or 5-line. Why should that be? Rotary is at heart good. It is always a giving organization. But somehow, I wish more developmental stories could come out of all the wonderful things that Rotarians do.
I think you've explained why bad news is always more exciting than good news. You know, man bites dog is always more exciting than dog bites man. You know, somehow, you know. So what I'd now like to do is throw it open to questions. Huh? How many minutes do we now have? 10 minutes. Any questions which you'd like to address to the two of us? You could take one of our mics. Yes.
Good evening, ma'am. We have always seen that a good PR pays you well, but I have come across at few instances where a negative PR also pays well, ma'am. I'll just give you an example. I belong to more of the financial services sector. When you raised the issue of this Maggi, that time the Nestle India's share price was around 2,500. And they have not done any, I don't know whether they have covered it on a broader way, but today they say that, people who have purchased their shares at, Maggi's issue are, billionaires today, because that 2,500 investment is worth 16,000 today. So my question stands here is sometimes does this negative PR also pay a lot, or it does not? And second, again, on the other side of the coin would be is, no matter what today Yes Bank is trying to do, they are not finding a successor, for their CEO, and still the prices are continuously falling down. And no matter what infusion they are doing, they are trying to, reduce or, the negative publicity, but they're not able to come over it. So I just wanted, Yes Bank.
Yes.
The Rana Kapoor's saga.
Yes.
So your views on that?
Very good. You want to take one question each?
You take two.
Well, first of all, with the Maggi issue, you see, it's exactly like what we discussed about Tylenol. Once you get over it, once you have proved to the public that yes, something may have gone wrong, it wasn't our doing, and then they withdrew millions of stock. A lot of effort went into that, a lot of money was spent behind it. But once they came back into it, there was no holding them back.
The information got submerged completely in the news. I mean, Supreme Court also did not report anything, and there was no news being published after that. It was like, it was more speculative that they paid a lot to, take out this news, and the share prices, zoomed up about 6-7.
I don't think I would quite agree with you that they paid a lot to take this news out. It doesn't happen. The media are not like that when you can just suppress it. But yes. But never. So it happened in the natural course of things. It's a good thing. I think it's a very interesting point that you brought up, that from the negative how it could be a positive. But in the case of Yes Bank, that is a worry, because people who are the flashy original owners, we knew them very well when they were with Grindlays, and then Rana Kapoor went on to Yes Bank, and we all went and put a lot of money into Yes Bank. But now what is happening with the problems that they are facing, They, yes, exactly, exactly. So there is a fear, because remember that people are trying to park their money where they can get the maximum returns. At least in India, we get better returns than in most other countries. But there are problems with our mutual funds. They are not giving the same returns. So everybody is now rushing to put their money in banks or in fixed deposits, trying to get those things. So they may even take money out of Yes Bank and say, now we'll go to Jana Bank, we'll go to the small finance banks, and so on.
I
So,
have an interesting story
Yes.
on Nestle. You know, some years ago, maybe about 25 years ago, Nestle started losing money on its brand of chocolates. So they, used a very interesting innovation technique called tapping customer creativity, where they got hold of young children, and the CEO and the top management of Nestle spent 3 days looking at innovative ways to solve this. And you know what they found? They found that children suddenly became conscious that too much sweet is not good for them. And then they became conscious that anything you eat should be healthy. And over a period, Nestle took their chocolates back into the lab, and they came up with chocolates with nuts in it, raisins in it, and a chocolate which is not too sweet, started using dark chocolate, and they got back their reputation of being someone capable of meeting the changing demands. See, everybody wants someone who's smart enough to change according to the events that take place, smart enough to change according to the time. Like you look at bharatmatrimony.com and companies like that. 10 years ago, nobody would have wanted to get married through the internet. Today, lot of people want to get married through elite matrimony. You just ask them, they say, yeah, it happened through the...
I
So,
think a lot of the advertising also has helped, as far as
Shaadi.com
Bharat and Shaadi.com. But I feel so sad about this Yes Bank. In my book, there's actually a chapter on Yes Bank and how they have done some wonderful CSR. And it's a pity that they went ahead with that CSR. And, a lot of companies are doing CSR for the sake of doing it. This is again what we say. This is another point that I wanted to raise, that do CSR, but in a more holistic way, in a way that it can really impact on people in the peripheral areas where you are doing business, and do it in a meaningful manner. Involve the employees so that they know it's not just checkbook philanthropy, but it is something where the company has a big heart. It's trying to spend money. People like Azim Premji spend 57% of their earnings on CSR. People like Bill and Melinda Gates spend 98% of what they have on CSR, and they're doing it all in India. So they come and tell us that, how can you talk about 2%? That's nothing. And actually it is very little. So this CSR route can also possibly help people get back some of their reputation.
you won't believe this, but just last year, a person called Ravi Shankar, you might have heard of him, in Bangalore, he's a builder. He gave away 99% of his net worth, 100 crores. He's a small guy, 100 crores to Rotary International. 100 crores, one person. And he has 2 daughters, not married, and his wife and 2 daughters said, Papa, please go ahead and do whatever you want. He says he came from the have-not part of society, and he said, society has given me all this, so I should do something to solve the problems of society. Ravi Shankar gives a single check, 100 crores, 99% of what he owns. And he is not worried, he is not bothered. His wife is not bothered. They say this is something we've always wanted to do. So
I think
imagine
it's,
what that did to
kudos.
his reputation.
Kudos to his daughters as well.
Yeah, and the wife. And the latest is he has a Mercedes Benz which he's put up for auction. He said, I should give till it hurts. That's what Mother Teresa said. See, Mother Teresa's reputation, that reputation was built from giving till she hurt, gave every part of her body, mind and soul for that cause. And, anybody who does that, I think will build a reputation. And like that egg, you can't do it unless the egg is good.
Good evening, Madam, and congratulations, Madam Rita, and good evening, Madam. And considering your several decades of experience, I have two questions. One, we are talking more about digital in everything, and kind of evolvement happening everywhere. Now we are talking about digital, either in the industry, in the marketing communication, the PR industry also as well. I would like to know what are the changes you are witnessing in these last 4 decades, especially now in the digital era. What are the tools right now you are using which is finding very interesting, which is very useful for the industry? Number one. Question number two is, in India, right now we are talking about more about the image consulting. We are talking, but I don't know how much we are taking with respect to image consulting. Because overseas, internationals, they are implementing, they are they are exploiting the benefits of this image consulting. How far in India right now it is happening, and what do you foresee? We Indians, are we ready to take image consulting again, in a strategic way? We are going to exploit the users of image consulting also as well.
Both wonderful questions, excellent questions. To your first question, I would like to say, yes, we ourselves, having been so long in this world of public relations, you have also, you have gone into various other areas, of course, Rekha, but for myself, I had to actually come to terms with the digital world. Initially, I resisted it. Why I resisted it is because I felt that young people were misusing it. They were just going on to the net, they were just doing WhatsApp, and they were using and misusing their phones. But then I realized that today's world needs quick and swift communication. Even when we are tackling certain PR problems, we have done a lot of it through online. Online, we have managed to solve problems, and we feel that this is the way forward. Social media is really the way forward. Not that we are ignoring the other back-end communication. That you cannot ignore, because that is the solid backbone of it. But we have to move forward, and digital marketing is the way forward. I've been learning for the past 4 years about this. Initially, when I was first asked to address a digital marketing conference, I sent them back a one-line reply: I am a dinosaur. And they were horrified. So they said, no, but you still must come and talk. So I went and talked about the basics of our profession and everything else, how that is important. The fundamentals are important, and then go into. But then once one started attending the sessions, you found that it is another world. You've got to be in that space. Otherwise, you'll be lost. You will be, the competition will just finish you. So yes, digital marketing is the way ahead. That is one thing. Rekha has to say something about that. Go ahead.
I'd like to, ask you to reflect on what's happened to brand India. Made in India was a bad word about 25, 30 years ago. But our young people went to Silicon Valley and, they changed the perception of brand India by, showing brand India as a group of people with fantastic brains, who knew. In fact, I believe even if you're driving a taxi in Silicon Valley, the joke is that they'll grab you, headhunters will grab you and say, no, you're an Indian, so you must be good at software.
Yes.
I think the digital medium is best utilized for the building of reputation, because it's so incremental. It happens so slowly. Every day you add something extra, But the negative of that is, you know, the amount, one negative can flow so quickly and gather a mass of negative opinion. So I know lots of people who don't like to be on the digital media. They say, what do we do if something terrible comes up? You know, it's very difficult to deal with a mob. Like you take the Egyptian revolution, Liberia, you know, the whole thing happened through the internet.
Yes,
almost.
it did.
You know,
Yes.
everything happened
Yes.
through the digital media. Definitely, it is the bedrock on which all communication hereafter
Yes.
will flow, including artificial intelligence. They say that, you know, machines can get across to customers at such speed that no human being can ever try to do it. So of course, you know, it's the way of the future, highway of the future.
And the second one? Okay, now image consulting is actually very powerful in India, let me tell you. And I'll refer you to one individual particularly. We're getting a little political, but he is one of the very good examples of somebody who has been trying to build the image of individual political parties, and that is Prashant Kishore. Now, I'm always puzzled. Here's a man who has been, say, building the image of Congress party. Then he goes on to BJP. Then he's consulting for AAP. Now, are you trying to use the same formulae that you use for one party for the other? I've been asking a lot of people, but they've been saying, look, he's an independent image advisory person. So he is at will to do what he wants. If he feels that a particular political party needs his expertise, he'll go and build their reputation. So that's what so this is just one example.
So the way Prime Minister Modi's reputation was built from Gujarat to the day he became Prime Minister, you know, that's a huge story on image building.
Yes.
Sir, one more I am in the line.
Good evening.
Only one question. I want a positive answer from you. Branding, image building, integrity and legal compliance are the two principles any association should follow. You complement MMA. Do you brand MMA on this from 56 to 2020? They have made a very good branding. Is it because of the legal principles and following the compliance? Do you agree or disagree?
See the vision, the fountainhead of excellence. You know, they've managed to do that, and particularly, you know, after Captain Vijay Kumar took over, we've won all the prizes. They don't want MMA to, you know, send in their entries anymore, because so many years, 10 years was it? 10 years they were the best management association in the country. Can give MMA a big... See, integrity is very important, and that's what that's what we spoke about. That story about Times of India. It has to be the truth. In Rotary, we say, you know, the 4-way test. Is it the truth? See, MMA provides extraordinary management programs at very low cost. It is devoted to the cause of, you know, improving management education, does so many things which has made Madras a center of managerial excellence. And I think integrity is core to anything you do. You can't build a product which has no integrity, a person who has no integrity. People smell it out. You know, you cannot hide the truth. So I think long term, if you're thinking of having a great reputation, you should also be a great person. Yes. Otherwise, very difficult. You can't just build a reputation and then you're a, you know, cardboard kind of character, you know, with so many things to hide. So the truth is central.
And actually, to add to that, I think it has been MMA's consistency and continuity of communication.
And credibility.
And credibility. So 3 C's, let's remember.
Thanks for this opportunity to ask a question. And I'm so pleased that two wonderful women, reputed women here, to launch a book on PR 2020. 2020 is a brand by itself now. Now, my question is related to the book. Now, since we are launching the book today, and we would like to read more about the book, but would like to know from you, what are the three most important elements in that book, which is, put up for the across the spectrum, mostly the youngsters, who can take value from that PR 2020 as a theme? What are the three most important parts in that wonderful book? I hope to buy it today, but would like to listen to you, the three most important
Thank you.
things.
I think the first one is that, when I was talking about the basics, so I have given the basic principles of what PR is all about. So that forms a bedrock of one part of the book. Then it goes on, what is most important in this book is that there are a whole lot of case studies. I have interviewed more than 60, 70 people from across industries, whether it is Pidilite Industries, or whether it is Tata Steel, or whether it's Yes Bank, or so many others. So to get to know from them various aspects of how they tackle either their CSR, or how they tackle their employee engagement, or what they do for their government liaison. So that's another part of it. And another part is geared to what Modi ji wanted, startup, stand up. I've actually devoted a portion to startups and to some of their success stories, because I think we all need to know, I think we are all getting away from just being part of a big company into leaving that and getting into smaller startups, because there's a lot of angel funding coming there. So to share their success stories, that is another part. And the fourth part is, of course, guiding the student, because there are a lot of huge number of media students and students who want to get into this field of activity, which really concerns, you can get into advertising, PR, you can get into newspapers, you can get into radio. There's a vast number of things you can do. So there, I am trying to guide people, especially there's one portion which is very interesting, because we're talking about 2020. Now, everyone loves to watch a 2020 game. So there's one portion where I've talked about how there are 20 steps to how you can attain perfection. So that's yet another thing. And then there are a lot of other stories of how Shashi Tharoor became so famous and how did he go about it. Here, this is the part which talks about PQ, the preen quotient, how to, the 2020 vision to substantiate life skills. This itself is a very major part of the book, because everybody wants to know how to up the ante, how to live better, how to be more successful. So these are a lot of elements which I think would help you.
How to build your own brand, because each of you is a brand.
Okay.
And you have to guard the brand, because reputation is everything. So guard it with your life. I think reputation is everything. Because if you're somebody who people believe, then you can get anything done. And so guard it with your life. Be very, very careful about what you allow or don't allow around yourself, because each of you is a brand. You go back and think about it, who are your publics? It could just be your relatives, it could be your family, but everybody is a brand. So work on it. I hope some of the ideas you got here will help you to go back and develop yourself as a brand.
Thank you, madam. Again, interesting insight. I know at least in the armed forces, when he passed out, first thing is imbibed in us, brand your reputation as your life depends on that actually. So we always believe that even a small faltered somebody, officers, I know an officer who took half a kg butter, he got dismissed from the service. So why I'm guessing, because it's a small minor thing as far as saying half a kg butter, no, leave it, yeah, it's not a big deal, no, it doesn't happen. So why I'm telling you, it's very, very important to keep our reputation because we want to kindle the thought process of many here. So that our reputation is so important for you, especially students who are here. You must listen to it and, keep working on it actually. It really helps. And keep reading books, and I'm quite sure you must read this book. You're not able to buy it, don't worry, it's there in library. You can borrow it and read it and give it back. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause to our distinguished speakers and the chairperson.
Yes.
Mike? That's why I said, no, your life depends on reputation. No life exists if your reputation goes off. That's the answer.
To the army and you get to know about it beforehand.
Sorry, madam?
To the army.
Yeah. Because there's too many stories of army we are telling you, but army a way of life. As you said, reputation depends on your life. If life goes, what is the point? You don't exist. It's like a trust, no? We always tell the people the trust is like a air in the room. If there's no air, you won't be staying here. So you build a trust like that because you lose oxygen, you let the air, you die actually. So trust is also like that. I can keep telling you a story about the para commandos, how we operate, how the trust is built up and how the reputation is built up. Like some of the operations what we have done in various places, para commando, how they are done. It's all a training process which is done over a period and everything on training. That's one of the reasons I always find MMA is very fascinating because the training and listening to the people of lectures like this make you smarter, more exposed to some of the ideas which otherwise you don't get because that the man is talking our experience. Maybe in the book you will get, but getting to know from here personally, it makes a lot of difference. I think, thank you for coming in spite of all the obstacles we had today. Yeah. You are hearing me every day. Okay. Yeah. Thanks so much, and I'll request you to please present a moment on behalf of MMA. She was a former secretary of Madras Management Association, no? Rekha Shetty. So, you can also join us. Come. Yeah, the book is available if you want to buy them, and she is happy to autograph the book and give it. Do it quickly because she has to go for shopping.